the social sciences are a great source of knowledge about man. The insights provide the children with knowledge and skills to socialize with the people around them, thereby making it easier on their part to adjust to their environment. The lessons made available to the social sciences serve as excellent sources of inspiration for the young children to take important active roles in their society. Through these lessons, children find heroes to emulate, heroic acts to replicate, and models of ideal characters. A beautiful way of presenting to children stories of great men and women that can inspire them is through the subject of history. History presents to the pupils an analysis of events in a chronological and simple fashion. As a subject, history may be described in several ways. First, it is almost always not exact. There are many controversies over which even students themselves need to agree. They need to agree on the interpretation of events, exactness of dates, motives of people, and a lot of other things. In teaching history, therefore, the teachers should not present it as something absolutely correct. He or she should provide for possibility that other facts which could change the picture of the event being discussed may be obtained in the future. In which case, the pupils should be prepared for such possible changes. Because history is not absolute, then, its interpretation may vary from time to time, or from place to place, depending on who is the person looking at it. Filipinos may look at the Philippine history differently from the Spaniards or Americans. This being so, the teachers should be readily sensitive to the possibility of varying interpretations. It offers the pupils a series of case stories that can help them understand current events and situations. For example, through history, the pupils are able to understand why there are many Chinese in the Philippines today, and why the Filipino culture is greatly influenced by Spanish culture. The story of the importance of the Pasig River in the trading activities of the ancient Manilans can give the pupils an understanding of its importance today. As the children realize how the river provided food, water, and transportation to the poor people of Manila, then they will understand the difficult struggle to clean it once more. Perhaps, as they grow older, such early understanding could lead them to participate in the effort to clean the Pasig River once more. History is also science. As such, it is a body of organized knowledge, a chronological record of the significant events of the past that have a remarkable bearing on the person. In presenting this body of knowledge, the teacher may employ different ways. The lesson should be presented in such a way that the teacher utilizes the other disciplines of the social studies. For instance, the field of anthropology may be utilized in presenting the story of the ancient Filipinos. At the same time, the discipline of sociology can be of help in understanding the ancient Filipino family. Geography can be utilized to help pupils understand why the early Filipinos behaved the way they do, as a result of the physical characteristics of the Philippine archipelago. Depending on the capacity of the pupils, the teacher may present history in an analytical manner, not simply emphasizing the chronology of events, but more so the interpretation of these events. This can create a strong impact on the pupils' young minds. Early enough, the children will be given an opportunity to see patterns of development, relationship of the events in history, causes and effects of national movements. They will then become conscious of the process by which a group of people grow and develop, and how history is shaped. Inasmuch as history is value-laden, the teacher may choose to present history, with emphasis on the values it brings the pupils. The values of patriotism, nationalism, service and courage are just a few of the values that can be emphasized in class. The content of the subject, thus, becomes a means to inculcate into the young minds of the pupils values which they can depend on later in life. As a subject, history focuses on the significance of the following. Persons are the key players in shaping history. Their acts can be sources of inspiration for the pupils. They can serve as models for them. Their failures and successes can provide tremendous lessons for the pupils too. Time is an essential concept of history. If time is lost in the discussion, history will lose its essence. The concept of time situates the event in its proper perspective in the continuum of events. It necessarily shows the progression of events, thus, creating an understanding of how events developed, one after the other. 3. Chronology. This concept is essential to the concept of time in history. More than time, chronology puts orders to series of events. One event alone does not create chronology. Chronology requires discussing the events in the order of their occurrence in time. Without this, history loses its meaning. Place. The location of the event is equally important. Events do not happen in a vacuum, and persons do not exist in the mind only. These realities have to exist somewhere. Value of events. By virtue of the fact that events are recorded in history, there must be significance in them. Recorded events must have affected significantly the nation's growth and development, or must have caused great concern or changes to the nations around the world. Thus, they are given due attention by historians. Because of their value, historians analyze them, and put on record the effects they register, in the lives of the people. Sources of data. The reliability of the sources of historians' data is important in the reliability of recorded history. Because of this, the teacher must be aware of the historian's sources of information, whether the sources are primary or secondary. Primary sources are first-hand information, and are always the best sources of information. Secondary resources, on the other hand, are also rich sources of information. Textbooks are among these. A creative teacher, therefore, can use several sources or books in teaching history. In order to facilitate the understanding of history, historians divide it into periods. Prehistoric. It is the period for which no written record is available. History is heavily dependent on archaeology and anthropology for the discussion of this period. For example, there are no written records concerning the foreign relations of the Philippines before the coming of the Spaniards. Yet, it is common knowledge that many Asian countries have been in contact with the early inhabitants. Data on this are based on the artifacts and fossils derived from archaeological findings. 2. Historic. This is the period for which written records are already available. Data regarding this period are derived from primary and secondary sources. 2.1 Ancient times. This is the period which is characterized by the emergence of the great civilization in the East and in the West. The civilizations which emerged in the East are those emerged in the river valleys, namely, the civilizations in the Nile River Valley, Indus River Valley, Yellow River Valley, and a Tigris-Euphrates River Valley. The West gave birth to the great civilizations of Greece and Rome. Each of these civilizations gave rise to political, social and philosophical thoughts, and structures that greatly influenced their neighbors. 2.2 The Dark Ages in Europe, and the Byzantine Empire. This is a period characterized by the barbarian invasion and cultural stagnation in Europe. It started with the fall of Rome, and is coupled with the rise of the Byzantine Empire in the East, followed by the emergence of the Muslim power. 2.3 The Medieval Ages. This period is also known as the Middle Ages and the Age of Faith. As such, it is characterized by the emergence of the power of the Church, and its tremendous effect on the historical development of the nations in Europe. During this period, feudalism was institutionalized. There was a growth in the number of towns and cities. Merchant guilds were organized, and crusade movements were born. This was coupled with the emergence of the Ottoman Turks in the East. 2.4 The Age of the Renaissance. For this period, emphasis is given to the great political, cultural, intellectual and scientific revolutions of the time. If faith was the greatest influence during the Middle Ages, humanism became the greatest spirit, which influenced the period of the Renaissance. This age also gave birth to the religious upheaval in Europe, giving way to the periods of Reformation and Counter-Reformation. 2.5 The Age of Exploration, Discovery, and Expansion. This age was brought about by the powerful inventions of the previous age. Stories of the adventures of explorers stirred European interest for wealth beyond their horizons. The conquest of new lands in the various continents of the world marked this period. 2.6 The Contemporary time. This period features the rise of modern nationalism, the shift from the old to the new political, social, and economic thoughts, which shaped the history of the 19th century. This period witnessed the birth of new nations, the wars which shocked them. Philippine history may be divided into pre-Hispanic, Hispanic, American, the Commonwealth, and the rise of an independent Philippine Republic. Since there are many factors that affect the writing of history, the teacher must be conscious of the possible subjectivity of the written history. The teachers should always bear in mind that he or she may unconsciously communicate the bias of the historian to the pupils, or in greater probability, his or her own bias. Objectivity should always be the basis for teaching history, thus, care should be taken in this connection. History teaching is always meant to relate the present to the past, for it is through the understanding of the past that one develops a grasp of the current events and, thus, make wise decisions for the future. History teaching is also meant to provide models and inspiration for the pupils. Great men and women who personify bravery, nationalism, courage, patriotism and other desirable values are so many in the books of history. Their lives can serve as patterns worth emulating. History aims to develop among the children knowledge and skills, as well as values and attitude, which will enable them to become worthy members of the community and good citizens of the country. Children at an early age can be oriented towards social responsibility through citizenship education. This kind of education provides the pupils with the opportunities to develop awareness of the social realities in the environment and gradually commit themselves to the common good as they grow older and as they deepen their understanding of the nature of the society where they belong. Two important disciplines which have tremendous impact on the social understanding of the pupil are civics and culture. Civics, which is a form of citizenship education, deals with the processes in society and the rules for living peacefully in the community. Culture deals with the way of life the people. Grade school pupils should be familiar with their environment so that they can successfully interact with the people around them, enabling them to become productive citizens. This task is now becoming more complex, considering the fact that a new global community is emerging. Thus, the school should prepare the young, not only for a role in the local community, but for a role in a larger global village. The study of civics and culture can provide for the understanding of the following concepts. Family. This is the first group to which the individual belongs. It is there where the individual experiences many first encounters, such as first relationships, encounters with the rules of membership, first acceptance or rejection, etc. The family life of the individual determines to a large extent the individual's community life. It is, thus, the foundation of every community, of every society. This being so, the pupils should be made to understand the importance of their families to themselves and to the community. Social responsibilities. Every member of the community is expected to contribute to the achievement of the common good. Students should understand that their behavior in the community affects others, too. Rights. Every person has a right. There are basic human rights: the right to life, the freedom of expression, to freedom of religion, to own property, etc. These rights are never absolute and are always accompanied by responsibilities. Students should be taught their rights, and also to respect the rights of others. This includes respect for the rights of the unborn child, the rights of women, and the rights of the handicapped. Needs. Everyone has basic needs. These are food, clothing, and shelter. It is the responsibility of the community to ensure that these basic needs are responded to. Thus, the community makes economic structures and activities that will help people address these needs. Leadership. Every group needs a leader. This creates the need for a political structure in the community. This is the structure that will set the rules to maintain peace and order, so that members of the community can do their activities. Through this structure, the community will hopefully achieve its common goal. Social group. Every person belongs to a social group, to their family, group of friends, organizations and associations. People in the community are classified into classes. Some are in the higher class, some are in the middle, and some are in the lower class. The lines of the people in society are affected by the group or class where they belong. Religion people have their own religious beliefs. They group together to form their own churches. Religion plays an important role in the life of the person and the community. Religion affects the behavior of a person and of the community. It creates a pattern of behavior for the members of the community. As such, it is an important factor in the development of people's history. Culture and cultural diversity. Culture is a shared behavior of the people in the community. It is a way of living. It varies from one group to another, because of the many factors that affect its development. Respect for the culture of others is important, particularly so today, with the emergence of a global community, where a meeting of the various cultures is inevitable. Development. Every person and every country wants to achieve development. Development is the concrete economic growth of the country, expressed in gross national income. In elementary level, a simplified way of defining and describing development may be presented. At least, the pupils should understand the indicators of development in terms of social and economic changes among the people. Civics and culture provide the development of social skills among the pupils. Among these skills are the following. Decision-making. Imagine a person who cannot make a decision, or a group who cannot come up with a consensus. Such situations are disastrous. They are prepared to make serious decisions when the time comes to the individual and to the group. Decision-making is a skill that can be developed early enough among the pupils, so that they are prepared to make serious decisions when time comes. This skill is developed by exposing the children to various situations involving decision-making in the home, among friends, in the community. They should be given the chance to make good choices. For instance, they may be given a chance to choose their own leaders, to express their side on some real class or life situations, and to make decisions on some rhetorical situations. 2. Coping with crisis. There are many crises which affect even the children. Their innocence makes them victims of these crises. According to Shikadins et al. 1990, some potential experiences can be prepared for, at least to a degree, by using a technique called crisis proofing. Crisis proofing seeks to arm the child against a crisis by providing a mild, diluted form of experience before a serious crisis occurs. One example of such advanced crisis proofing is having an ambulance to visit a school, so that the children can see what is inside. When the children are prepared, they experience less anxiety during the crisis itself. 3. Socializing. When the children understand their environment, they tend to accept it more, and are able to relate within it better. The socialization skill enables the pupils to relate with the people around them, and participate in activities requiring group effort.